Welcome to Comic Cave, the ultimate podcast where art and Dungeons and Dragons collide. I'm your host, DNDWife, and I'm thrilled to take you on a creative journey like no other. Each week, we'll dive into the world of fantasy art, exploring stunning digital pieces, intricate miniature paintings, and captivating character portraits. I'll be joined by amazing guest hosts, sharing their insights, tips, and tricks to help you bring your own artistic visions to life. We'll uncover the stories behind each artwork, from the initial spark of inspiration to the final brushstroke. And as a special treat, much of the art we discuss will be from our beloved homebrew world of Extraeus. So whether you're a seasoned artist, a curious newbie, or just a fan of nerd culture, Comic Cave is here to inspire and connect you with the magic of creating art that reflects your passions. Join us every week on Comic Cave, and let's embark on this artistic adventure together. Don't forget to subscribe and let your imagination soar. Welcome back, adventurers, to Comic Cave. I'm your host, DNDWife, joined by my husband, Dungeon Master Eguile, and guest host, EntLynk.
Hello, everybody.
Today we're diving into the next epic chapter of the Traveler series with a brand new comic reveal, Mr. Peepers Lashes Out.
This one's intense. An innocent festival stroll turns into a nightmare for Bricky and Bog Bean when a mysterious clawed threat emerges from the shadows.
We'll break down the art and discuss the emotional power of the panels and explore the challenges of creating a truly terrifying monster.
So grab your sketchbooks and swords, and let's dive into this art of adventure.
Okay.
So, I love these transitions.
That was an intro.
That makes you want to go, huzzah!
Yeah.
Right.
Got to put the, zinger in there.
The pen is mightier than the sword kind of reference.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. In this case, the digital pen.
Hey, that's right.
The stylus.
Yeah, there you go.
The stylus of justice.
So, we want to really dive into the piece here. It's an interesting name, Peepers Lashes Out. It's certainly indicative of the way Bog Bean sees the scenario, because she's the one who named these creatures. They had no name.
Well, is that
Yeah,
is that
you
right?
named, yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, because I remember you as the DM was like, Ella. I'm so sorry if I'm derailing this.
Yeah. No, you're
but
good.
Ella was like, oh yeah, my friend Mr. Peepers, and Bog Bean was like exclaimed, "Who's peeping on you? You're gonna peep her?"
Maybe.
I remember reacting, I don't know if I.
Is this one
Check
of
the
those ones?
tapes.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to go back to the tapes. We always just ascribed it to Bog Bean.
It is
Yeah.
a very her thing. I think
Yeah.
that it really took off because I don't know if maybe I added the Mister or something, but
I think it was.
Because to me, where it was always the reference was it was from Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like the Jeepers, where'd you get those peepers?
Uh-huh.
So
that makes sense then if you had the reference to
Yeah.
it.
It
then
might
you
have
would've
been.
named it.
Yeah,
You
I
said
don't know.
Peepers, and
I'm pretty
then
sure I
Bog
said
Bean
Peep-
added the Mister.
and the reason too is because I'm pretty sure Peepers is a nickname in one of the BioShock games, which is where I got it from.
Gotcha.
Because I imagine, how you described their really piercing eyes and
Yeah.
stuff.
Huge eyes.
That
yeah.
makes
the
total
focus, and that was the focus part. Was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I want it, and that's why I was like Peepers. I want it, but I didn't really have a name. I honestly didn't have a name for it
Yeah.
either. So
I mean, D&D,
it was on
As it goes.
literally on my piece of paper. It said name TBD.
Hey, that works, right?
Well,
The life
we
of a
figured
DM.
it out together. We all named them.
Yeah, it was a joke.
But to see, kind of what happens here with the Mr. Peepers, it starts off really nice, I think. Bricky and Bog Bean are taking this really nice, nighttime stroll. The sun's just gone down, so the festival's starting to get underway in Arnoka, and they come across a little Mearshaw girl whose ball rolls in their way.
Yeah, this is right after, I want to say, Bricky had run away from the fire, and they had this moment of what's
Bonding.
wrong. Yeah, there was concern for each other, so they're walking back to camp, and like you said, Ella comes up and introduces herself. She wants the ball tossed back to her,
Yeah.
and so Bricky, being he goes out of his way to be kind because he's such a hulking Frankenstein,
And he looks
thing.
a little, off-putting, so he wants to put it forward a friendly face.
Yeah. But I think it came down to rolls, but the next panel is him tossing it at her, hurting her.
Yeah.
What it actually came down to was vernacular.
His wording.
It was
I throw it at her.
the ball. Yeah, I throw it at her.
Yeah.
when he should have said, toss it at her.
Right. If the people out there are listening, you know that our DM is very particular on words and how we say things.
Words matter.
Yep.
And so like things like that, right? Like, so it was like, I think that's what spun that. And then he rolled very bad.
Yeah.
Because it's what made the check happen. And then it was like, oh no, the dice want this to happen.
Yeah, it was like 5 and under, if not a natural 1.
Which is so funny when that happens, because usually, even if it seems innocuous, you're like, are you sure? And you'll repeat the phrase. And then we think it's fine. And then you're like, okay, well, actually, this.
But then again, like... we were talking about this in the latest Traveler's Chronicle. It's like every time I see things, I have like this visual look at it. And it just always reminds me of like, it's like Billy Madison or whatnot of like the dodgeball scene where like the adult is like tossing a ball. And even the adult thinks, oh, I'm barely throwing it. It's a child. So you're throwing it, what their perspective is like,
just
Mach
gave him
1.
a concussion, you know?
And it's just like, to when it happened, it was like, this is so perfect.
Yeah, he didn't intend
he didn't know, but
Ricky didn't know his own strength.
He was fated to have that event happen.
Even Bog Bean didn't see that coming. In the panel, you can clearly see she is like, what? That's too hard.
Yeah, we're all like, what is going on
The
right now?
roll determined where the ball landed, and that's where the bad roll
Right on her face.
And then it was in her face.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot about that. That is rough.
That's
that is
ouch.
rough.
Because it would have been different if he missed completely and it just overchucked the, but no, he hit dead on.
Yeah, but it hurt her, and it hurt her quite a bit. So
Oh, yeah.
when that happened, the Mr. Peepers finally comes out, and this is where the action starts, because you can see this sort of like just really eyes, a mouth, and like arms come out of the shadows, and they look monstrous.
Very terrifying Furby.
And then the next panels are just this flurry of activity.
It's literally the slash where we see that Bricky his leg is just gashed and leaking that mysterious black promethium coursing through his veins. But I wanted to make it very dynamic and just focus on how nasty these creatures are. And then obviously, it's happening so suddenly, Bog Bean and Ella are like, what do we do?
Right? Because at that point, Bog Bean didn't know that Bricky is powered by this other substance. So, you see black liquid just seeping out of your friend. It's so confusing and terrifying.
Yeah, you're losing your fluids so fast. And like it... And at the time, I think he was already hurt. Yeah. And so this really like put the nail in the coffin.
He wasn't exactly in the best of health.
In the context of D&D, he... at the moment had weaknesses to necrotic. And
because he didn't have Shad as his counterpart.
And so unbeknownst to me of this, because I didn't remember it, because there's a lot to remember, it was the fact that it did double damage on a low level character. So essentially I rolled a crit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it brought
without rolling
brought him low.
No, I knocked him unconscious.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're in D&D talk, so I had to clarify. DM.
Yes.
DM.
I was trying to make it more story driven.
I got you.
For the art.
Now we can step out. DM out.
I just love the way that this comic ends. I think that's probably my favorite part, is those claws coming out. Not just because they're coming out in like this 3D effect, but they're reaching over into the next panel almost. Like they're coming not just at you, but they can go anywhere too.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you. I think this was like the first real instance, but like throughout the comics, I've really been playing with like the breaking of the panel lines, just because it's more dynamic and I don't know, it feels more fun. And like this, like you said, it makes sense narratively.
Absolutely. It shows, I think, because it looks like the Peepers just comes out of nowhere, out of the shadows. So this kind of gives credence to the fact that maybe they can just kind of come and go as they please by using their claws.
Because that's how it felt like at the table interaction, was just like, okay, so all of a sudden in an instance, this thing is here and there is an attack. What? We don't know much else.
Right?
Yeah, I always loved because it was attributed to speed and that the creature was fast.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas because in reality it was only Bog Bean.
That's what we just assumed, yeah.
And even though the character, the player playing Bricky knew what was going on, Bricky himself had no clue.
Yeah, and they kind of had to play it out that way. So that was interesting.
And yeah, like you said, like this is Bog Bean's first, like she recognizes that this was the thing that she was trying to tell the others about
that she saw
in
earlier.
town, but this is the first person who she's acting like this is no big deal. He's her friend. Yeah.
Like she's confused as to why her friend attacked Bricky.
Yeah.
But
She give,
she's
like, a
also
look-
been hit in the face by a ball.
Right, when it even happens, she gives like the look of like, oh, you're gonna get it. Like it's like what a parent, or like what they assume, like, oh, your parent is gonna come and like spank you, but it's
she's like,
oh, no, she's got
oh.
like a rabid, weird creature guard dog.
She doesn't understand that it's like a terrible thing.
Right.
Well, because I think I remember like she would make mention of like, oh, he protects me from bullies and
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm unclear if she even saw the violence, you know, exactly.
At that point, she never did.
Yeah, I think Bricky was the first time like he had openly lashed out, and that's just because he accidentally hurt her.
And even then, he doesn't even bleed.
No,
Yeah.
that was all Prometheum, as we now know. That it was just so interesting, and I also love that kind of like last little bit with Bricky on the ground. It's so emotionally jarring. But can you tell me a little bit of like what your favorite parts of the panel were?
I definitely like the first panel just because it is like the friendlier scene. It's like an easy
calm
clip
before
art
the
to kind of
storm.
take out. Yeah, like they're just so blissful and unawares, and they just had their little moment. But I do, I love my doodles, and I love the tiny Bog Bean who is shocked in the fourth panel. She's like, "You threw that way too hard. Like, what is wrong with you?"
Right.
Or even like the barbarian's like, bro,
Whoa.
Yeah, context matters, man.
soft touch, 10%.
Yeah. And I love that in such an emotionally charged piece, with everything going on and kind of a little bit of violence happening as well, that you find little bits of levity in there, that it's not all like darkness. It's like, whoa, a little bit of shock, a little bit of fun.
Is there anything that you would pick out as one of your favorites?
Besides the claw marks, I like the peepers coming out of the shadows.
Ooh.
I thought that was really well done. The fact that you didn't give it a full body somehow makes it worse, because it makes it feel like the shadows are the body.
Thank you. I was hoping, like, low key, that is probably one of my least favorite parts of this, because it was just I feel like I'm happy with how it came out, but it was one of the things I struggled with, was trying to, because I had that that fear emotion of like what I knew like this at the table made me feel like, which is how you described.
Which makes it more impactful, because really, in the grand scheme of things, the grand reveal, when everyone kind of gets a better look at it comes later. So even right now, even in the context of the story, there really is just a blur. It was left open. It was left open to Bog Bean's imagination, and like how she could explain something so phonetic that's going on.
Right. So you kind of ascribe the things that we normally ascribe to things that we're afraid of. Big eyes, they're bulging, and claws, giant teeth. Those are always things that are frightening.
Yeah,
and even Bog Bean knows that that's the case.
Yeah.
As she transforms into these things sometimes.
Totally. Like, that's a really cool point to touch on, just because like she is familiar with nature and being animalistic a bit herself. Like, these are the features of a predator. Like, this is not to be messed around with.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's not Ella's friend for sure.
As they say, they're not messing around.
Right.
But no, I really appreciate your comments on the representing this like ethereal kind of creature of the darkness, just kind of coming out of the shadows.
It just kind of moves around wherever he feels like. But that comment you made about how challenging it was leads me into the next little bit I want to talk about, which is the challenges and solutions of kind of representing an invisible creature that you had no former reference for, really. He just kind of, our DM kind of just told you like a bit, like really the eyes were the biggest descriptive thing that he gave.
I'm pretty good at my descriptors.
But
this was, I think, purposefully meant to not be,
It was mysterious, and we kind of got what we like needed at the table. But then I did remember approaching you about this comic, and I was like, okay, so getting down to like the brass tacks of
what does it look like?
Yeah, like just like just a little bit more. So I'm just
give me something to work with,
depending on how I wanted to portray it. But then like you had touched on like the gremlins and stuff as inspiration.
And then the other thing, I mean, obviously a little bit of this, but DNDWife, but EntLynk, all of these, like some of these kind of main cardinal guys all have kind of a certain thing that I connect them to. So one of them is mouths. And so this one happened to be eyes.
Yeah.
So so that's where it was like, when it first started, it was like, okay, no matter what, it's the eyes. Like the eyes are always a thing. However we go from there, it doesn't matter. But it got kind of turned into, over time, more of, like you said, like this gremlin. But really, my only thing was just the fact that it was eyes.
Yeah. My main takeaways from it was like big eyes and long claws. That was kind of it. And everything else was kind of up for interpretation, which kind of interestingly makes sense. Like, if it's in the shadows and kind of half invisible, like, maybe not everyone is getting the full image of it.
Or maybe it changes based on, you know, what people are afraid of, or just what they think is the most horrifying thing it can show you at the time. You know, just, you never know.
These little gremlin its running around.
Right. And not the cute gremlins from the beginning of the movie, the horrible little monsters that try to eat your face at the end of the movie. Those are the ones we want to talk about.
Which is so funny because I've never seen those films.
We have got, you know, it's a Christmas film. We have got to show that.
Is it really a Christmas film?
Yes, it is.
It is.
So, 'tis the season.
Fuck you.
We got this. We're gonna make this happen, yo. You know, that I think that was the crazier part of the challenge. Yeah, was trying to figure out what this thing looked like. So I kind of want to ask you how, you know, we settled right on eyes, claws, teeth, but how did you settle on where those proportions were going to go in the shadow, like as it emerged, like how would it come out to represent?
I tried to think about like because I kind of had the other figures kind of set in the scene, and then I was like, okay, so how can I put this creature, like, to kind of, I guess, represent that it is just like appearing because of this action, or as a consequence, really.
You know, I think putting it coming in from the panel actually really achieves that well. So that's really good.
I think the shadows, I kind of made it in like a wave form kind of over Ella. So I was hoping that would portray like, this is like because of her.
Yeah.
He is acting out in, you know, retaliation.
Yeah, it's not a drive-by. It's like you see that there's
it's not just some random act.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think it shows intent. It was
no. I just when I just got a little point in my. It's just kind of funny because, like, out of context, it's also just like, it could also just be the DM and the dice that punish you for harming little children.
That's true. You know, hit a kid in the face.
Take the story out of it. It just shows guy walks up, throws ball at kid's face, dark shadow just messes him up.
Yeah.
Mr. Peepers is the DMPC.
Consequences,
in lots of ways, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that I agree with what your earlier comment, DNDWife, was that things are scarier when you can't see all of the information.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're dealing with. So I think that is I tried, like, there was drafts drawing the entire form. And it just wasn't working.
Oh,
so I was like, all right,
feel as real.
Scrap it, move on. There's got to be something better.
Gotcha. That's going to be interesting because I'm going to try out my hand here at some Peepers artwork. We'll see how that goes. We'll try full body rendition,
I always
see how that
multiple
translates.
Interpretations.
Yeah.
It's always nice.
And I do love that, just based on that, like, Luna totally would be the... what is that word? Like, you're out in nature and you're like drawing
like an
what
anthropologist.
you see. Yeah, like, it'll be very anthropologically like sketched out, like his form. That's so cool.
Oof. Well, we'll see.
Luna can be our hammerlock.
Yeah, I'm gonna try for more realistic.
Just the fact that it's like all there and it's not just like, oh, it's like partial.
You can point to parts of the
It'd be like an
anatomy.
anatomy diagram.
Ooh, yeah. Right.
Ooh, his insides. That'd be really cool.
If you get your hands on a couple.
If he has insides.
Nice. Luna could definitely dissect some if they come up across them. I don't know how you do that though with the things that are becoming corporeal.
Man, she's gonna pioneer the science.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll make something happen. I got potions. But I like that. I like that the Peepers was made to appear in this sort of like mid-lunge, have hidden in this darkness. I like that it looks like it's not from this world. It's coming out of somewhere else, wherever these shadows are from. It's clearly ripping through time, space, whatever it needs to get through, because it wasn't there before. And Bog Bean could see it. I mean, I know Bricky couldn't, but Bog Bean could see it, and she couldn't see it at one point, and then she could see it. So it had to have come from somewhere. So it just really, it adds, I think, to the fear, because it gives it this like, well, where's it coming from? Or can it come from anywhere?
Are there more?
Right? So I think that was a really good way of overcoming that challenge of like, where does the peepers come from? It not only makes it look like it's coming, you know, on behalf of Ella, but also that it's from, you know, off the panel somewhere, not this reality. It's coming from somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's more terrifying, I think, than knowing that it came, or where it came from, or what it is, right?
Awesome. I'm so happy that I was able to translate a little bit of that fear. So mission success.
All right. And then I was also gonna wonder a little bit about size and proportion with these characters, because you said you had the original characters in the scene already kind of set in the panel when you were gonna draw the peepers coming in. How did you make sure to like keep the proportions, you know, not make the peepers too big or too small in comparison to the existing characters?
One of the great things about digital art is that like it is much more easy to like resize things and like select out things. So I do use that when needed. And then just to keep consistency, like ideally you want like a lineup drawing where you kind of like have everything set. But I kind of do it off of feel, and I try to focus on like the backgrounds making sense as far as like the like perspective. I imagine
they all line up correctly.
Like you imagine like the camera like being really close to someone's face, but then like moving out and having everyone in frame.
The zoom out effect is proportionally correct. Oh, that's tough.
But digital art really does kind of like, there are little shortcuts that make that easier. If you have to like edit along the way too.
I will say, it's nice to be able, because if you can do it by layer, you can just select that one layer, that single panel, expand it or crop it in and out of the, you know, whatever parameters you have it going on. So I like that. That's really nice. Definitely makes it easier.
And that's got to be crazy too, because I mean, our group of people are very, very different in height.
Oh, yeah.
As even with Bog Bean and Bricky, it's like, you know, Bricky's almost over 7 feet tall, and Bog Bean's pushing a little 3 feet something.
Yeah.
I try to keep her head around like his knee or his thigh. That's how big he is compared to her.
He's huge.
But like I've seen like, you know, I don't know if it's been released yet or not, the art with like the group photo, but then you're bringing like smaller characters much closer to the screen to kind of help.
We're not there yet, I think.
I don't think we're there yet. But that's gonna be a cool one.
We're coming. Yeah.
I like that one.
But yeah, that one was we had to make sure there had to be a way to like get the detail of the smallest characters, because Bog Bean is certainly not the smallest. We've got Drexla, our fairy,
who's a foot tall.
Yeah. And I'm gonna make sure to do her justice instead of zooming out too, because that does also
just doing like a little
Tinkerbell ball.
In the comics especially, I always think about that, whether it's Bog Bean or anyone small like Drexla, like that definitely goes into influencing like how the panel is laid out, because I want to make sure that this is represented as the character and not just like a speck in every panel, because it's so zoomed out.
Right. But I like that this, you know, it's interesting to see the like Ella compared to the peepers. And the proportions there, because if you look closely, the like head size and everything, generally speaking, matches the head size and stuff like that of Ella, but the shadows make it look so much bigger. So I think that was a really good way of like overcoming that challenge of proportionality, of figuring out how big or small you can create the illusion of something being bigger than it is by just creating space around it.
Totally, like the different visual effects that might come along with it. Like I definitely think that definitely gives a bit more oomph versus if I just drew like a blurry like raccoon almost figure like scurrying around like.
Although that's terrifying in and of itself. Totally. Don't get me wrong.
Does Extraeus have rabies?
Probably
something worse.
Something close, something magical probably. You never know.
Right.
You know, but
it does now.
It's, you know,
oh no, sorry everybody.
Right.
We apologize for any and all ideas that are born through these conversations.
But no good idea or no ideas are bad necessarily. Right. They're all usable. It's all content, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll use it. But you talking about how you tried to make sure that all the panels were in proportion in terms of the background and stuff like that. It really brought me to like this idea of like moderation too sometimes, because you said it can get kind of tedious when you work too long on a piece, or you try to match it up too perfectly, and then you just sit there this entire time so that you can post it or so that you can put it out there. So we want to make sure we talk about social media moderation, because it's so tough out there right now, right? Places like
scrolling.
Well, not even that. Like places like Instagram and TikTok require not just daily posting, but multiple posts a day sometimes, just to stay relevant.
It's way too easy to scroll, but so difficult to actually content create and
to make it out there. Unless you go like viral off of one clip, it's really difficult.
And like getting to know every single different algorithm for what it is, because they all operate differently, and it's like, okay, like it can definitely be like a turnoff, you know, where you feel like you can't have your hands in enough projects, really,
or do too much social media, because then you're spread out across like 5 different platforms, and they all require different things. It's it can get a little, not just it doesn't just build the pressure on the creator, but I think it can get a little demoralizing sometimes too.
Definitely. Like I'm always thinking about the old masters and how they had months and years to create art, and I'm like, wow, that must be so nice.
Yeah, right.
We're over here having to make like
churn it out.
Yeah, you're churning it out, and then ideally to help bridge that, you want to make like however many social media posts for one piece, but then
to break it up and give you more content.
Yeah,
but then how much is too much?
How much is too much? And then you're still, whether it's like more art or more videos or content pieces like for posting, like either way, you're like piling up your list of stuff to do. There are tools to help with that. Like I've been looking into like Buffer and things like that to kind of plan things out. But it's definitely a job in itself.
Absolutely.
You don't want to burn yourself out, and you want to take time.
Yeah. And I think it also has this kind of really bad unintended side effect. If you're constantly making art just to post it, and you're just churning it out to make those posts, to make sure that you stay relevant and you keep doing it, and you get those views, you start losing the emotional relevance behind your pieces. And then it no longer becomes about making artwork because you love it. It just becomes, I got to make something because I got to post on Tuesday or something, you know? It's so difficult to keep the passion while also making sure you keep up on all social media platforms.
100%. Like you almost have to make like your studying of art your content, which is crazy, because sometimes I see people's studies pop off, and they go way crazier than like their OCs. So it's like, you know, RIP for us OC artists.
Right. Like, the doodles do better sometimes than full art pieces. It's insane.
Or even like if you're not drawing like for a fandom, and you're not just aggressively drawing for this fandom, then no one cares.
Right. It's like, oh, they're just an artist. They do a bunch of stuff.
Right. It's like, it's not my favorite character. Get out.
Yeah, I don't
Scroll.
care. Yeah.
But
that's
no,
so tough.
It's a joy to like make art and see people who like will respond to your stuff. And I'm not sure if it's like every platform, but I know for TikTok, which I'm mainly posting on right now, RIP come January.
Oh, I know.
They actually like, they reward you for interacting with other people's posts as well. So it's like, okay, if you're engaging, will show you more people too. Right. And that makes sense. Like that. But like, I'm definitely having to like train my extremely introverted self to like put comments and like, you know, engage with other people.
And then you get into the other bad side effect, which is a DM Eguile brought up, and you get caught in the doom scrolling, and then you can't stop.
Yeah. If I'm on there, like, how do you make time for like the content creation and also like being an avid, you know, user
engaged
of the app?
person, yeah.
And that's all I'm doing. It's my whole day.
Yeah, that's it.
When am I gonna make the art?
Yeah, when you have time.
You're like, all right, I've done enough of that. I gotta go to bed now.
Yeah, but definitely like I've been trying to set up like Buffer and just having like a schedule of things, because they do have a free version, and I don't know, just trying to, I do often recommend to like take a break when you need it.
Absolutely.
If the process isn't processing, like it's kind of a sign to me, like everyone has their own tells that, you know yourself best.
Yeah.
But like just recently with like my PC building project, like I was like, okay, I can't pressure myself to like do art because that's just going to be antithetical to what I'm doing currently.
Then the art won't
it's
feel
the holidays.
as good. Yeah.
Totally. So it's like, and then I often find that the first drawing session after a big break like that, where I've allowed myself to not feel bad about it, dude, I like, it hits. Like, I'm just like, okay, I'm back. Like, I feel good about it.
I can churn out like 10 of these things.
I'm doing like 4.5 hours of work, and I look up from my screen. I'm just like, oh man.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
I was in the zone.
Yeah. I would also recommend doing like silly drawings too, like doodles and stuff that you're not trying to take seriously. And, you know, like you said, right, sometimes the studies and the doodles pop off. So you might build yourself a little backlog so that you can post those when you're just feeling like, oh, I don't want to post something that's like a full OC content or anything like that. I just want it to be, I know I just said OC content. That's funny. But it can just be something that that's organic, that happened, and that I just happened to take a video of or something.
Totally.
You know?
People like the fast and loose stuff. And I think that there's definitely a place for that when you're just trying to like post, and it really helps you to like create a backlog. If you're working like, however many hours on a piece, but you're also doing like warm-up doodles, like, that's already more content.
Or perspective studies on the side to make sure you're getting your original piece worked out. Like all of that helps. And I like your idea of that. It helps build your backlog. That way, in case you're not feeling it, in case you need to take yourself a little mental day break or something like that, you can always just rely on having a workload that is built up, a backlog that you can just post whatever, forget about it. Another thing, one last final point I wanted to make on social media as well is one of the best things I ever read when starting up my social media accounts was to only check your content once a day, like how it's doing, like all the stats and stuff like that. Check it at the end of the day. So that way, actually, this is an advice you gave me, DM Eguile. Just check it once at the end of the day, see where it went. But don't check it more than that. Don't start popping it off every hour or so just to see, because then you demoralize yourself. You don't see, you don't see the progress for what it is. You just see like
one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it goes up by ones instead of like
the
10 or 20.
Right?
Yeah.
It looks so much cooler where it's like, oh, I just came back and it's at 100.
And then plus, like, I know I'm guilty of this. Like, if I get a notification and I check it right away and I open the app, I'm doom scrolling for an hour.
Yep. Now you're in there again. Exactly. And and reading through like comments and all the time and stuff like that can get really demoralizing. It can put you down. So I would just recommend not checking on that so often, and also not taking it too seriously. If 1 or 2 people or even more than that start watching you, then that is amazing. And every single person that you get, obviously we should be grateful for, because that's a person that normally wouldn't be watching our content, right?
Like, I like to think about if like 10 likes on a post doesn't feel like a lot, but if 10 people were in front of you clapping or giving you a good job, like
that's a lot of people in front of you doing that.
Different for sure. So like everything matters. But like,
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Comic Cave. We hope you feel inspired to create and explore new artistic horizons. Before we go, we'd love to stay connected with you. Join our Couple of Nerds Discord community to share your own artwork, connect with fellow artists, and submit your ideas for future episodes. We can't wait to see what you create and hear your suggestions. And don't forget to check out our Couple of Nerds YouTube channel, where we showcase the artwork discussed in each episode. Watch detailed videos that highlight the inspirations, techniques, and stories behind each piece. Stay tuned for more episodes, where we'll continue to dive into the vibrant world of fantasy art and Dungeons & Dragons. Your creativity is the heart of Comic Cave, and we're excited to see it shine. Make sure to subscribe to Comic Cave, leave us a review, and spread the word. Until next time, keep creating, stay inspired, and may your imagination know no bounds. This is DNDWife signing off. Happy creating, everyone.